Zhang Hong's sensitive felt a little hot. He snorted coldly and furrowed his brows. Sen Shuang frantically wrapped the blanket, but Zhang Hong held onto it. His hand closed over Sen Shuang's cold hand. His fingertips were long and slender, and his palm was warm. She felt a wave of warmth surge through her. Don't move. Bring me a towel. Sen Shuang stood rooted to the spot. She felt that she had done something wrong and her face was flushed. She had forgotten that he could react now. Sen Shuang did not know how to react. Then the door opened. Sen Shuang was overcome by the need to conceal what just had happened. Just as she thought she was about to cover him with a blanket, a large hand pressed down on her back and she could only lay flat on Zhang Hong's body. Her stomach hurt because something stiff was pressing onto it. Her face was flushed, and she covered her head with the blanket. The large hand on her back was pressing down on her so firmly she could not get up at all. She could even feel Zhang Hong's body tensing under her. She was going to die. Why did she bring a big bowl of porridge to Zhang Hong, although she did not have to? Now it was all stuck to his body. The moment Boyan entered the room, he saw an explosive scene. Sen Shuang was lying on Zhang Hong's body. Her body was pressing down on the hopeless Zhang Hong, who laid under her. He instantly became serious and asked in a daze, "What are you guys doing?" Zhang Hong looked up, and the gaze he directed at Boyan turned cold. He said 2 words mercilessly, "Get out." Boyan regained his composure and cooperated by closing the door. He stuck his head in and said with a stifled smile, "You guys don't have to worry about me. I can wait outside for a little longer." Boyan thought about how Zhang Hong had been lying on the bed for half a year. The fact that he was in high spirits was very normal since he had just woken up. He had come at a really bad time. When Sen Shuang heard the sound of the door closing, she tightened her grip on the blanket. Her body stiffened and she could not move until the pressure eased and she could breathe evenly again. Chapter 43, It's Not What You Think. Zhang Hong flashed a cold glance at him. Although his influence seemed weak now, his dignity was still there. Boyan quickly shut his mouth and went to check on his condition. After a while, Boyan said, "You've been unconscious for so long. The swelling in your brain has almost gone down completely. It's just that your body is a little weak. You just need to replenish it." Boyan's last statement held an obvious hint. Sen Shuang's face instantly turned red again. Zhang Hong had woken up, but she did not know how to get along with him. The Zhang Hong she knew was quiet, and he let her do whatever she wanted. However, it did not seem easy to get along with him now. The strangest thing was that she was so nervous in front of him. She did not know what to do with her hands. She stood there uneasily. Zhang Hong said coldly, "The Zhang family's recent situation." Boyan said helplessly, "I knew you were a workaholic. I sent the Zhang family's information to your private email every day. You can take your time to peruse it. However, the Zhang family is no longer what it was half a year ago." Zhang Hong had been seriously injured half a year ago, and he had been bedridden for so long. No one knew if he was going to be able to wake up and rejoin the corporation. Zhang Yiliang and his son naturally took the opportunity to seize power. Although the Zhang family had old Master Zhang leading it, he was not young anymore. There were some things that he was unable to do. Zhang Hong's gaze was solemn. Just as Boyan had said, the Zhang family situation was not good. In just a half a year, the second family's son and his son had almost emptied out half of the Zhang Corporation's assets. Boyan continued, "I haven't told anyone about you waking up. If they find out, they'll probably worry themselves to death right now." Boyan sneered. Zhang Hong's willpower had always been very good. Even if everyone in the Zhang family did not believe that he would wake up, Boyan still believed in him. "It will take some time for your body to recover. You shouldn't be interfering with the company's matters. However, if the father and son knew that he had woken up, it would only make them jump the gun. They would take an even bigger bite out of the Zhang Corporation. Zhang Hong asked, "How long will it take me to recover?" William thought for a moment. About 2 months. The time you spent in bed was not considered long. However, if you work hard to train yourself, your recovery would be faster. After saying that, his gaze swept over to Sun Shuang. He packed up his things and was about to leave. His expression was serious. When he passed by Sun Shuang, he even reminded her considerately, "A coma patient who had just woken up isn't fully recovered yet. Please continue to take care of him for a little longer." Sun Shuang rolled her eyes. In a blink of an eye, the two of them were alone again. "Should I tell Mom that you're awake?" As soon as Sun Shuang finished speaking, Lan Yabai came back. "I heard that you called Boy, and are you not feeling well?" The moment Lan Yabai came back, she grabbed Sun Shuang's hand and spoke nervously. Sun Shuang shook her head. "It's not me, it's..." Sun Shuang was stunned that when she saw Zhang Hong was lying in bed, pretending to be asleep. When did he lie down? He moved so quickly. Had this person really been weak for half a year? Lan Yabai's gaze was unexpectedly sharp. Boyan already comes to check on Zhang Hong every week. We shouldn't trouble him. Why are his clothes dirty? Sun Shuang said embarrassedly. "I accidentally spilled porridge on him when I was eating. I changed the bed sheets and changed his clothes. I don't think I got everything." Lan Yabai looked at her nervous expression and smiled gently. "I'm not angry. I'm already really happy that you can accompany Zhang Hong every day. With you around, you shouldn't feel lonely." "Your son isn't lonely at all. I'm afraid he still secretly despises me," Sun Shuang thought at this to herself. Zhang Hong had woken up, but he did not want Lan Yabai to know. She felt quite guilty. Her mother-in-law treated her so well, and she was not telling her the truth. She felt guilty. Lan Yabai stayed for a while before leaving. Sun Shuang heaved a sigh of relief. When she saw Zhang Hong open his eyes, her heart skipped a beat. What should she do? She was used to seeing him asleep, and she felt uncomfortable when he was awake. Sun Shuang pinched the hem of her shirt and stood in front of the window. "Well, Mom has been worried about you. You really won't tell her that you're awake?" Zhang Hong threw her a small white bottle. "Eat this." Sun Shuang looked at it and asked, "What's this?" Zhang Hong replied, "Anti-inflammatory medicine. The bandage on your back won't be enough. You also have to be careful so that the wound won't get inflamed." Zhang Hong looked at the tablet in his hand and spoke calmly. Sun Shuang suddenly thought of something and blurted out, "How did you know that I have a wound on my back? Did you see it?" This meant that he had been woken up last night, but Sun Shuang remembered that she had been naked during then. Zhang Hong raised his head and met her panicked gaze. He said calmly, "I saw it. I even personally applied medicine on the wound for you." Zhang Hong's voice echoed in Sun Shuang's mind. She thought she had dreamt of Zhang Hong applying medicine on her back. She also thought she had dreamt that she slept holding tightly to his hand. Did all of that really happen? Chapter 44. You want to kick me out of the Zhang family's house. It was Zhang Hong who had applied the medicine on her wound. That's why her back healed so quickly. Sun Shuang said, "And what I said this morning. You called me hubby and said that you were very beautiful. Do you want me to open my eyes and look at you?" "I heard you," Zhang Hong answered seriously. His eyes were calm and reserved, but his words were straightforward. Sun Shuang froze and blinked at the man in bed. "I wasn't wearing any clothes." She had been naked for the entire night and had been even walked around the room in the morning. Did that not mean? Zhang Hong retracted his gaze and his attention turned to his tablet in hand. "I didn't look at you." Sun Shuang felt that his words sounded so fake. He had applied medicine on her wound and covered her with the blanket. He claimed that he didn't look at her. Clearly, he had seen everything. Sun Shuang looked at the man in bed and was both angry and annoyed. "So be it. I'm a member of your family anyway." Although she said that, her flushed face still exposed how embarrassed she felt. She had let her guard down. How could she blame him now? If anyone was to blame, it was herself. She had never thought that Zhang Hong would wake up so quickly. She also did not think that he would look at her when he woke up. Sun Shuang turned around on the bed. After a while, she said softly, "Thank you." After all, he had helped her, giving her the medicine. She had to accept his kindness. Zhang Hong looked up in surprise. She clearly felt wronged, but she refused to let him see her. He thought of the words he had heard when he was unconscious. "Zhang Hong, can you wake up? If you wake up, I won't have to be bullied anymore." However, the person who bullied her today seemed to be herself. Zhang Hong thought for a moment and said, "The Zhang family won't tie you up." The Zhang family would not let her suffer. She did not have to suffer so much, and she did not have to be so careful in front of him. The girl in Zhang Hong's dream was noisy and crafty. She could act like a tiny kitten and be completely obedient when other people are around. However, she could also be fierce when she was with him and act like a little tigress. She had never been at a disadvantage when it came to Zhang Tinghao. However, when she was alone, she would hug him and secretly lick their wounds. Sun Shuang was stunned. She turned around and met Zhang Hong's thoughtful gaze. Her eyes were red. "You want to kick me out of the Zhang family house?" Did he say that? Could this be the generation gap that the outside world was talking about? Zhang Hong frowned and was about to explain. Sun Shuang said aggressively, "Your mother announced our marriage, and I am the young madam now. I am legally married to you. Why should I leave just because you want me to? Dream on." Sun Shuang seemed to have thought of something after she finished speaking. She started rummaging through the doors into the room and very quickly threw 2 marriage certificates and an agreement in front of him. Sun Shuang looked up and said proudly, "You can divorce me if you want. You have to give me a large amount of alimony and the Sun family's house." Although Sun Shuang felt her words were very imposing, she could not help but tear up. Her guess was right. Zhang Hong wanted to deny the fact that he was married to her the moment he woke up, and he even wanted to divorce her. Although she was not attached to this emotionally unavailable husband, she also felt mistreated. When she thought of leaving this house, leaving the Zhang family, and Zhang Hong wanting to divorce her, she felt more and more wronged. She felt so wronged that she could not control her tears. When they fell, she quickly wiped them away. What kind of joke was this? She, the second daughter of the Sun family, would not let anyone see her cry. Even Zhang Hong was not allowed to. Zhang Hong did not look at the 2 marriage certificates. Instead, he picked up the agreement and took a look. His face darkened. She married him just to take back the Sun family's villa? Did she not consider that he might not have woken up? She would have been faced with a husband who could never speak, and she would still need to take care of him. Or was it that, from the beginning to end, Sun Shuang did not care about these things? She only cared about the house, and it didn't matter who he was. Zhang Hong sighed and tidied up the things on the bed. He handed them to her. "Put them back neatly, don't throw them around again. I don't like messy rooms." Sun Shuang said aggrievedly, "I clean up every day, okay?" Seeing that Zhang Hong did not say anything, Sun Shuang sat back on the bed in a huff. She was in a bad mood and did not want to say anything more. Sun Shuang laid on the bed for the entire afternoon and did not move, although the scar on her back had scabbed over her hurt when she moved. Fortunately, when she had asked Mu Sen Sen to apply for a leave of absence for her. However, it seemed that she would not be able to go to school for the next few days. They suddenly heard a voice of the maid outside the door. "Young madam, madam would like to invite you downstairs for dinner." Sun Shuang replied and looked at Zhang Hong, focused on the laptop like he had been all day. He had actually sat there the whole day without moving. It was as if she was the only thing that had been breathing in this room. Since Zhang Hong had woken up, he had been very busy. He was not at all cute when he was lying in bed. Chapter 45. You're not shy, are you? Sun Shuang asked, "I'm hungry. Do you want to eat something?" Zhang Hong did not want anyone to know that he had woken up. So wouldn't he have to rely on her to bring his meals back to his room every day? Sun Shuang felt that she would be in even more trouble in the future. Zhang Hong said, "Bring the food here, you don't have to eat downstairs either." Sen Shuang mumbled softly, "Accompany you during meals, talk with you, and sleep with you. I'm not an escort." Although she was unwilling, she still obediently got up from bed and slowly walked out of the room. Zhang Hong looked at the figure that disappeared out of his line of sight and stayed put. He rubbed the space between his brows and sighed. The generation gap is so wide. Lan Yabai saw Sun Chuan carrying a tray of food and could not help but smile. "If you're sick, you should eat more. That way you'll recover faster." Sun Chuan nodded guiltily and hurriedly carried the food upstairs. This is what her son wanted to eat. She often did not eat more than half a bowl of rice from the Zhang family house. In the room, Sun Chuan threw herself onto the bed after eating. She Chapter 46, Revenge Must Be Exalted. Sun Chong also felt it was strange, but she did not think too much about it. She took her things and said, "I'll go and finish the school bus first. Remember to tell me if the president has anything to say." Mu Sen nodded, looking at Sun Chuang's back. She could not help but say, "She's so beautiful. I don't know if Zhang Hong is worthy of her. It's a pity that our Shuang is obviously a perfect match for Senior Li." While Sun Chuang was drawing, she suddenly heard a girl behind her say, "Why are you calling me again? Did I not give you all the money? Moreover, the matter hadn't been settled yet. What else do you want?" The girl said angrily, "Are you kidding me? I asked you to take nudes of Sun Chuang. You said it was fine, but you blame me for your broken arm? Don't contact me again. I want nothing to do with you." Sun Chuang stepped away from the mirror wall. Her paintbrush slipped through her fingers and fell to the ground. A coy smile spread across her face. Sun Chuang appeared in front of the woman. The woman in front of her was stunned. When she realized that it was Sun Chuang, she was clearly flustered. Sun Chuang's gaze fell on Len Megan's face. "I was wondering who hated me so much, so it was you, Miss Len, who is about to marry into a rich family. Why are you pregnant again so soon?" Sun Chuang's voice was not loud, but it pierced straight into Len Megan's heart. Last time she provoked Sun Chuang in the cafeteria, and she had lost. She did not expect that even the people she bribed this time could not subdue her. Len Megan thought of Sun Chuang had broken the arms of the two people she hired, and she was so scared that she took a step back. Len Megan's face was full of wariness as she said, "What do you want?" Len Megan was once the school beauty who was pursued by others. However, ever since Sun Chuang came to Jiang University, everything about her had been trampled under Sun Chuang's feet. The Sun family's daughter, the #1 soliciate in Lin City, was worshipped as a goddess by the boys in Jiang University. Even her pride had been smashed into pieces in front of Chen Shuang. She was unwilling to accept it. Why could she only be a department beauty? Why was Sun Chuang born into a rich family while she had to please rich young masters and old men to have a better life? Len Megan pretended to be calm. "So what if I hired those people? Do you have proof? Who would believe you?" She wanted to conceal the panic in her eyes, as if Sun Chuang could do nothing to her as long as she denied everything. Sun Chuang looked at the paintbrush she was holding and exerted a little strength. The paintbrush was broken in half. She raised her head and said indifferently, "I'm afraid that you don't understand. I don't need any evidence or reasons to beat you up." Len Megan still dared to bring up evidence with her. What did it have to do with her whether others believed her or not? Len Megan had hired someone to harm her. Why did she need to find evidence to make others believe her? It was fine as long as she believed it. In any case, she did not like to be at a disadvantage. She had always exacted revenge. The most infuriating thing was that the others could not beat her. In the past, because of her status in the Sun family's daughter, no one dared to lay a hand on her. Now, whoever dared to lay a hand on her would find their hands broken. Len Megan was shocked by the malice in Sun Chuang's eyes. She fell to the ground in a sorry state. "You can't hit me. This is a school. The dean will not let you off. Don't you want to graduate from Jiang University?" Len Megan did not expect Sun Chuang to be so very. Chuang was amused by her. Len Megan as she spoke. The smile on her face was gentle, but Len Megan felt a chill run down her spine. She was so scared that she shivered. "Don't come any closer. Stay away from me." Sun Chuang said gently, "Don't be afraid. I just saw you fall to the ground and wanted to help you up. After all, it's only right for classmates to help each other." Sun Chuang's smile was very beautiful, but Len Megan was scared silly. She almost screamed and ran away. She did not have the arrogance of a department beauty. After all, seeing that she had not far run, she heard a splash. Then Jiang Jia shouted for help from his classmate. Help! Len Megan fell into the water. Sun Chuang could not be bothered to look at Len Megan, who was choking in the water. She turned to see Li Jun, who was not far away. Senior year, you're here. Sun Chuang's face broke into a sweet smile. Her innocent and harmless look was completely gone. It was as if the scene just now had been an illusion. Sun Chuang was thin and had the gentleness of a woman. If Li Jun had not witnessed her breaking the arms of two strong men with a snap of her fingers, he would not have believed that the gentle girl in front of him would be so fast, accurate, and ruthless. Chapter 47. I Am a Black Lotus. Li Jun retracted his gaze and walked past Sun Chuang to pick up his brush. Sun Chuang blinked innocently and picked up a new brush to continue painting. Suddenly, Li Jun said, Actually, I saw what happened that day. I can testify for you. Sun Chuang turned around in surprise and looked at him strangely. What was he trying to say to her? Li Jun was embarrassed by her stare. He cleared his throat and said, If there's a need, I can prove to the school that she kidnapped someone and hurt her intentionally. The school can't allow her to break the law. Sun Chuang smiled nonchalantly, as if the matter had nothing to do with her. Li Jun frowned and said with a mature look on his face, You won't send her to the police station? As Sun Chuang had wanted to do that, she would not have tried to scare Len Megan. However, she did not know if she would back down. Sun Chuang said, I'm fine. That would be not to do much. If she wanted to come with excuse, she might be out in a few days. Len Megan always wants to marry into a rich family. Unfortunately, the boss of the security company she wants to be with to have a family, he can't divorce his wife to marry her. She's quite unlucky. Len Megan wanted to harm her, but she could still think of others. Li Jun was stunned. He looked at her for a long while before saying, You're not who I thought you were. Sun Chuang smiled. Do you think I'm as pure as a white lotus? I'm not a kind person. If she dares to provoke me again, I'll break her legs. Do you think I'm evil? I'm actually more like a black lotus. Sun Chuang's fierce expression made Li Jun's mouth twitch. She turned her gaze back to her painting, but her hands were still gripping the brush tightly. The two of them worked hard the whole afternoon. Finally, they had completed the task and she was left undone for the past few days. Sun Chuang raised her head to look at the gloomy sky. It looks like it's going to rain. As soon as she finished saying that, the raindrops fell from the sky. It's raining. I have to go now. If it rained heavily, she was afraid that the road back to the Zhang family's house would be even more difficult to navigate. The rocks from the last time were there on purpose. However, if it rained heavily this time, there might be a landslide on the mountain road leading to the Zhang family's house. Sun Chuan threw down her supplies and ran out. Li Jun looked at her back and had no choice but to pack up and leave too. The rain fell as thunder resounded. The entire Lin city fell into black. Sun Chuan looked at the road anxiously. She thought to herself that there would be no falling rocks on the way back to the Zhang family's house. Although Zhang Hong had woken up, his body was still very weak. Plus, she was the only person in the Zhang family who knew that Zhang Hong had woken up. If she did not go home, she was afraid that Zhang Hong would starve to death in bed. She did not want to become a murderer. Sun Chuan thought to herself. Her line of sight inadvertently caught sight of the road that was flooded by the heavy rain. Sun Chuan saw a small gray figure curled up in the east corner of the Jiang University. The little guy was trying to escape. However, he was forced back by the heavy rain. Sun Chuan parked the car by the side of the road and ran out of it. The heavy rain outside drenched her completely. She quickened her pace and ran to the poor figure in the corner. Li Jun was sitting in the car not far away from her. He watched the slender figure carry something into the car in the heavy rain. The driver urged young Master Madam's birthday party is about to begin. Li Jun looked at the red car that had disappeared into the rainy night and said, "Let's go home." Sun Shuang looked at the two little ones and said gently, "Don't be afraid. I'll take you home first." On the passenger seat, the two little ones were snuggling against each other. They whimpered now and again, and they were shivering. Sun Shuang looked at the two little puppies and muttered to herself, "How pitiful. Who was so hateful to abandon you two? Is it very cold? Don't worry. We'll be there soon." Outside, the sound of thunder was mixed with heavy rain. The air was cold and damp. However, it was warm in the car. Sun Shuang sped up and drove carefully on the mountain road. She definitely felt that it was inconvenient that the Zhang family had built their house halfway up the mountain. When Sun Shuang drove the car into the Zhang family's courtyard, Lan Yabai ignored the heavy rain and came over quickly. "It's good that you're back. Next time, if the weather gets bad as this, stay in a hotel for one night. Don't run back and forth." Although the Zhang family would often hire people to clean up the mountainside road when there were small landslides, she was worried when she heard that Sun Shuang was blocked by rocks last time. This time it was raining so heavily, and Sun Shuang still came back in the rain, which made her heart ache. If it were not for Zhang Hong's illness, they could have moved to the city and given up this extra room. Sun Shuang said, "Mom, I'm fine. I was driving anyway. I'll just be careful." Lan Yabai looked at Sun Shuang's wet clothes and said with heartache, "Why are you all wet?" Chapter 48, The Perfect Couple. Lan Yabai continued, "Quickly, have the kitchen staff bring over some ginger soup over. Get rid of the cold first, and don't get sick like last time." She thought that if she was driving, she would not get wet no matter what. Sun Shuang smiled and nodded. Then she carried the two little puppies out of the car. "Mom, do you think they're cute?" The girl's innocent smile was especially dazzling under the light. Lan Yabai looked at the two dirty little dogs in her arms and was stunned. She couldn't have done this to herself because of the two little dogs, right? Lan Yabai smiled. "They're cute. Give them to me. Hurry up and go upstairs and take a shower." She got someone to take care of the two little dogs over and pushed Sun Shuang upstairs so she could change out of her wet clothing. In the room, Zhang Hong was lying quietly on the bed. He seemed to be sleeping soundly. Sun Shuang turned on the lights of the room and glared at the man on the bed when she picked up her clothes. "Stop pretending it's not your mom." The man on the bed opened his eyes and she accepted as he would. He only managed to catch a glimpse of the figure that flashed past the bathroom door. Then he turned to look at the night sky outside the window. It was raining outside. She actually came back despite the heavy rain. Sun Shuang took a shower and put on a bathrobe. She asked, "What do you want to eat? I'll bring it up later." "All right. I'll leave some food in the room in the future. Even if I come back late, you won't be hungry." Zhang Hong's gaze swept over her dripping long hair. "You don't have to come back in such heavy rain." He was at his own home. No matter what, he would not be hungry. Moreover, he could call Boyan over if he really needed help. Sun Shuang said, "I had some things to do at the university today, so I left late. You didn't eat during the day, so if I didn't come back tonight, I thought you would be hungry for a long time." Although she was well dressed and well fed, she had quarreled with her parents when she was young. She had done something stupid like going on a hunger strike, so she knew very well that it was not a good feeling to be hungry. Zhang Hong's deep voice had a hint of insincerity. "You rushed back for me?" Sun Shuang replied, "Of course. If there was anything else that I need to worry about when it comes to your family." According to Lan Yabai's instructions, her responsibility included taking care of Zhang Hong. She had to take good care of him and think of everything that he might need. Besides, she did not need to worry about cooking. Zhang Hong sat up from the bed and waved at her. "Come here." Sun Shuang asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Do you want me to fetch a basin of water?" Since Zhang Hong had woken up, he did not need Sun Shuang to sponge him anymore, so she could save herself a lot of the trouble. Sun Shuang walked over obediently, and he pulled her into him before she could even steady herself. She almost instinctively wanted to break his arm, but after thinking about it, she realized that Zhang Hong's weak body could not withstand her torture. She held still and allowed him to pull her over, falling onto the bed. Her head was immediately covered by a towel. It was blocking her vision. A pair of gentle hands covered the top of her head, and fingertips gently dried her hair with a towel. Zhang Hong's voice came from beside her ear. "You didn't dry your hair after showering. It's not a good habit." Sen Shuang whispered, "You don't have to dry it. It can dry itself." Perhaps it was because the temperature of the room was too high, but her face felt hot. Even her heart was beating uncontrollably. The bed under her felt like a red-hot iron plate, making her uneasy. Why was she so nervous? Zhang Hong's fingertips gently ran through her hair, allowing it to wrap around his fingers. Zhang Hong gently reminded her, "If you want anything in the future, you can call home. There's no need to rush back so late." His deep voice sounded behind her head. Sen Shuang sat upright with a flushed face. Her fingertips tightened the bathrobe on her body as she replied faintly, "Okay, then I'll call you if I need anything in the future." Sen Shuang was so nervous that she almost forgot. This was the first time she had been so close to the man. She could even smell the scent of his skin. He smelled like her body wash. Sen Shuang looked at the two figures reflecting on the glass window, and her eyes slowly curved into a smile. For a moment, she felt that the two of them were like a perfect couple. Sen Shuang had been drenched from the rain. At midnight, she felt a slight pain coming from her wound on the back. Her face was pale, as if she had lost blood. In the darkness, she had carefully touched the man's hand and held it tightly. Her voice sounded aggrieved. "Zhang Hong, I'm in pain." Just as he finished speaking, the crystal light in the room shone on her face. The sudden light pierced her eyes. She could not help but squint. She pressed her face against the back of his hand. She asked in a hoarse voice, "Zhang Hong, am I going to die soon?" Ever since the Sen family went bankrupt, she felt she had lived too unjustly. Sometimes she felt that she might as well die. However, she was actually afraid of really dying. Chapter 49, A Delicate Woman. She was only 20 years old. She was in the prime of her life. But in front of Zhang Hong, in front of the man who used to lie in bed and understand all her grievances, she could not help but want to be pretentious. Zhang Hong frowned. His eyes were serious. "You won't." Sen Shuang's lazy voice carried a hint of coquettishness. "But I'm in so much pain." Zhang Hong's heart felt like it was pricked by a thorn. He took the initiative to grab her by the hand. "You touched your wound in the shower. Why didn't you change the dressing?" After saying that, Zhang Hong lifted the blanket that was draped over her body. Sen Shuang's muffled voice came from under the blanket. "How could I change it if I can't reach it?" However, she could not bring herself to ask the man to apply the medicine on for her. Zhang Hong was stunned for a moment. He undid her bathrobe and exposed her miserable back. The place where she was injured was stained with water, and it seemed that some parts of her wounds was starting to fester. Zhang Hong pursed his lips together and said, "Did it get drenched in the rain?" She knew that there was a wound on her back, so why would she shower herself and not dry off properly? Moreover, clean water should not cause infection. Sen Shuang laid on the bed, burying her head into the pillow. Her face was flushed. One of her hands subconsciously grabbed the corner of his shirt. I accidentally slipped a little. She was no longer wearing her bathrobe. She knew that Zhang Hong was applying medicine to her wound. He brought the cotton swab to her wound, and she could feel a piercing pain. Zhang Hong frowned and did not reply. Instead, he carefully cleaned the wound on the back and asked casually, "How did you get this wound?" For so many days, he did not make an effort to ask her about the wound. Sen Shuang thought that he would not care, but he still asked in the end. She felt mistreated. However, Sen Shuang said in a low voice, "Big deal. After all, the more beautiful a woman is, the more intense the jealousy will be. I understand, however, I'm not the kind of woman who can take that sitting down. I beat the people who tried to hurt me. Someone was jealous of my beauty, so they wanted to vent their anger. However, it was not when she spoke of this, it was if pain she was feeling a moment her had disappeared, and her small face was burned brightly. Zhang Hong's lips twitched helplessly. He really did not expect her to be so thick-skinned. She was quite impressive. After saying that she had been hurt after she was pretty, and still showed understanding, Zhang Hong felt that there was a generation gap between him and her, and it was just a difference of 10 years. Could there be such a change in mindset? Sun Shuang's low voice sounded. Zhang Hong, it hurts. Zhang Hong regained his focus and stopped what he was doing. He took out 2 inflammatory pills and said, "Take the pills. Let Boyan come over tomorrow to take a look at you." The young woman laying in bed was very obedient. She opened her mouth and swallowed the pills that Zhang Hong had given her. Then she obediently laid under the blanket. She was clearly not in her right mind due to the fever. Even so, she did not forget to mutter, "Zhang Hong, thank you. You were a really good person." In the past, everyone respected and feared him. It was the first time someone had praised him like this. Rest well. You'll recover tomorrow. Zhang Hong's gaze swept over Sun Shuang's back. He frowned slightly and carefully covered her with the blanket. Sun Shuang obediently said, "Okay." The light in the room was warm and orange. Zhang Hong tilted his head to look at the curled-up figure beside him, his black eyes gradually becoming more tender. His hand was still tightly locked in her grasp, and she was unwilling to let go. She leaned her small face against his arm. Through the fabric of the clothes, he could feel the warmth of her body. Sun Shuang's fever quickly subsided after taking the medicine. However, she was still used to leaning to the warm body beside her. The person beside her shifted. Smile. The next morning, Sun Shuang was woken up by a gentle kiss. She had subconsciously turned her head to the side and buried herself into the pillow. She whispered, "Zhang Hong, don't cause trouble." Zhang Hong was sitting next to her, was stunned. His expressionless face revealed a hint of awkwardness. The person by the bed could not help but laugh out loud. Boyan received Zhang Hong's warning and said earnestly, "I didn't hear it on purpose. She was dreaming, so it was not my fault." Sun Shuang, who was in bed, reacted to that. When she opened her eyes, she saw a furry little ball. Then she saw a pair of eyes that were looking at her innocently. Wasn't this one of the dogs that she had brought back last night? It was the dog who kissed her? William's handsome face scrunched up as his eyes narrowed. He looked like a cunning fox. "You've woken up from your dream. What does Zhang Hong look like in your dream? Does he look like a lustful, hungry ghost?" Chapter 50, Jealousy. Sun Shuang was stunned. It took her a while to realize what she had just said. She thought Zhang Hong was kissing her, and she thought it was a dream. But why did she resist? Moreover, it was so embarrassing to be seen by 2 men. Sun Shuang blushed and hugged the little puppy next to her. She buried her face under the pillow. How embarrassing. William held back his laughter and looked at Zhang Hong. "Your wife is really interesting. She can actually have this kind of dream while sleeping with you. It can't be that you..." William received a glare from Zhang Hong and quickly said, "I know you can do it. You're the best." Sun Shuang buried herself into the pillow, but she could still hear the men's conversation. She was even more annoyed and ashamed. She never thought about this. She was just having a dream. The dog had influenced her dream. William stifled his laughter and said, "I've looked at your wound. Zhang Hong has treated it very well. As long as you obediently apply the medicine, I guarantee you'll be fine in a week. It won't leave any scars, so you don't have to worry about Zhang Hong won't like it." Zhang Hong's voice interrupted coldly. "Put down the medicine. You can leave now." Boyan glanced at the person in bed. He felt Zhang Hong's gaze on him and said, "Don't worry, she's your wife. I won't snatch her from you. You won't even look at me. Let me look at her, Zhang Hong. You're too jealous." Boyan took his things and bumped into Lan Yabai, who was rushing over when he was leaving. Don't worry, cousin-in-law is fine. It's just a fever. She'll be fine after a few days of resting. Boyan's voice was not loud, but it was enough for the people in the room to hear. The way he called her cousin-in-law made her feel even more embarrassed. When Sen Shuang raised her head, Zhang Hong had already returned to the bed asleep. He probably considered acting as a vegetable as a profession, and his acting skills were too good. After Sen Shuang finished muttering to herself, Lan Yabai rushed in. She looked at her and said with heartache, "Your body is so weak. You take care of yourself." Sen Shuang replied, "Mom, I'm fine. I'm just a little cold. The rain yesterday was too heavy." Lan Yabai saw that the other had her face flushed, and she was much better. She also heaved a sigh of relief. Boyan had come over, so she had nothing to worry about. When you're sick, you need to rest more. I'll come up to take care of Zhang Hong for the next few days. Sen Shuang heard that and said excitedly, "Then can I move out? I mean, I want to move into the guest room." As soon as she said that, a hand grabbed her thigh from under the blanket. She felt a dull pain and almost cried out. Lan Yabai nodded, frowned, and subconsciously glanced at Zhang Hong, who was lying in bed. She wondered if Sen Shuang was unwilling to sleep next to a vegetable for the long term. A normal person would not be willing to, not to mention that Sen Shuang was a young lady. Although Lan Yabai felt uncomfortable, she did not let it show on her face. Sen Shuang pretended to look pitiful. "Mom, don't misunderstand me. I'm not looking down on Sen Hong. I'm just afraid that I'll infect him with my cold. If he catches a cold from me in this state, his body will not be able to take it." Even though the blood circulation in her thigh was about to be cut off, her expression did not change. In order to prevent this morning's embarrassment incident from happening again, Sen Shuang felt that she had to put some distance between herself and Zhang Hong. She might even develop a desire for Zhang Hong after staying with him for such a long time. It was simply too scary. She was a proper lady. After listening to Sen Shuang's explanation, Lan Yabai heaved a sigh of relief. She kept that relief to herself and did not let it show on her face either. "You're very considerate. I'm not very good as you to Zhang Hong. You can move into the small room next door for the next few days. It's connected to the balcony here. It's very convenient." That's what she said, but she meant that even though she was sick, she had to accompany Zhang Hong. Sen Shuang now deeply understood that Lan Yabai was trying very hard to make her have feelings for Zhang Hong. Sen Shuang nodded. "Okay, I will move back when I'm better." After saying that, she silently said in her heart that she would probably never be better. Lan Yabai smiled lovingly. "If you're sick, you should rest more. I will give Zhang Hong a body scrub today." When the words "body scrub" was uttered, his grip on her thigh suddenly became even tighter. Sen Shuang was in so much pain, she almost jumped out of bed. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, "No need, Mom, no need. Let me do it. Zhang Hong is my husband. I want to take care of him personally." Her words were sincere, and even though she herself was touched, Lan Yabai's heart softened and she stopped what she was doing. She looked at Sen Shuang with slightly red eyes and said, "Zhang Hong is lucky to have married you. It's been very hard on you for these past few days. If you feel uncomfortable, don't force yourself. If you're too exhausted, Zhang Hong will definitely blame me when he wakes up."